All right, at this time, we'll start public comment. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. First on deck is John Bigeman.
Good morning, Commissioners, Executive Director Burhans, and the fellow outdoors men and women. I'm John Bigeman, Hunter Nation, Pennsylvania State Director. First off, I would like to thank everyone involved in simplifying the license system and getting rid of the pink envelopes. Senator Dan Laughlin got Senate Bill 431 passed, and the Game Commission did what they had to do to get the job done. Myself and so many other people were able to get online, go to a store, and if you went to the Game Commission headquarters or a county treasurer's office, you're able to get out in 5 to 10 minutes. This is a direct result of internet speeds. This affects the processing speed of your license in a timely manner. Having our hunting license with our doe license in minutes and not have to question if we would receive the tags through the mail is a huge relief, and we thank you guys for that. Secondly, June 1st, 2023, there was an open forum with the Pennsylvania Game Commission, sponsored by the Pitcairn Monroeville Sportsman Club. Invited to attend were 2,300 members of the Pitcairn Monroeville Club. The 25 clubs which make up the Allegheny County Sportsman's League and 3 of the local trap leagues. Total invitees had to exceed 8,000 sportsmen. Advertising topics were to be deer management, the firearms deer opener, and the reintroduction of the pine marten, and any other questions sportsmen may have. When the meeting commenced, there were 23 people in attendance, 11 members of the club, 2 officers who opened the club, 7 members of the Game Commission, Senator Jim Brewster, a club member, and Randy Santucci with Jack Marks. This represented less than 1/3 of 1% that were invited. In the beginning of the meeting, there was a very educational exchange between the Game Commission and the guest on topics of coyotes, ruffed grouse, getting rid of the pink antlerless license application, and many in the room congratulated the Commission on the pheasant program. The only dissent came from Randy, who as pheasant hunters should not be charged for this take in the endeavor. He also mistaked the number of pheasant hunters by 66%. After Randy decided to take over the meeting and bash the Commission on everything, the deer numbers to the Monday opener, the reintroduction of the pine marten, hunting fall turkeys with a rifle, and demanding hunters must choose between Monday and Saturday as the season opener when they purchase their license. Commissioner Fredericks stated that this should be considered a poll, not a survey, as there could be a lack of control. Randy then asked the Commission Randy asked the Commission if the hunters could not be trusted. The Commissioner said he did not say that. Somewhere in Randy's heated remarks, 3 of the club members left the meeting saying, "You can't even ask a legitimate question because Randy doesn't ever shut up." Senator Brewster also left early. The meeting was ended because of the frustration felt by members in attendance not being able to participate. As I follow up, I want to ask Randy the following questions. If all hunters can't be trusted, why is there a law enforcement division of the Game Commission? Why is the harvest report accuracy 40% range when it's required to all who harvest a deer? Why are the following statements found on Monday Facebook administration by Randy? Continue to purchase your antlerless tags and burn them. Report the harvest even if you didn't harvest an animal. Cut down trees to the entrance of the state game lands the night before the opener so lawful hunters cannot access the properties. It's sad to say another failed attempt by Randy to demand the commission on the conservation-minded sportsmen of the state. He, however, did prove he has no following, and his obnoxious behavior offends sportsmen and 11 or even senators in attendance. CWD has been moving south to north for years now in our Commonwealth. The minority chair of the House Game and Fisheries Committee said that as a direct result of the antler restrictions put in place, the representative would love to see them thrown away completely, but this is moving slowly. This is a slow-moving process. He has House Bill 439 or 493.
Hey,
this
John.
would eliminate antler restrictions for seniors. We oppose them, and if you have any questions about that, please see me afterwards.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. I'm Emily Demoto, Chief of the Forest Resource Planning and Information Division in the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Bureau of Forestry. DCNR's mission is to conserve and sustain Pennsylvania's natural resources for present and future generations' use and enjoyment. DCNR is responsible for ensuring the conservation and long-term health of Pennsylvania's forests and native wild plants. DCNR manages more than 2.4 million acres of state forests, 124 state parks, and promotes best management practices on 12 million acres of private forest lands through outreach, education, technical assistance, and research. A key strategy of DCNR is to sustainably manage state forests to protect and enhance wildlife habitat and maintain resilient ecosystems. We enjoy a close working relationship with the Game Commission to support diverse and sustainable wildlife populations for current and future generations. The Bureau of Forestry is committed to supporting ecologically resilient ecosystems and biodiversity, especially as Pennsylvania faces increasing risks due to climate change, which has exacerbated a number of management challenges, including wildfires, disease outbreaks, invasive species, and other emerging threats. A sustainably managed forest ecosystem provides many more opportunities for native species to thrive and to be reintroduced. The reintroduction of the American marten, lost to deforestation over the past centuries, continues the effort to restore the forest to an ecologically diverse forest system. The marten may play a significant role in forest health by helping to stabilize rodent populations and through dispersal of plant seeds. DCNR recommends continued monitoring throughout the reintroduction process to minimize the impact of the marten to other native species, particularly those that are rare or declining in numbers. DCNR also recognizes the cultural importance of the American marten within the region. Public education throughout the process is also essential, and DCNR can help the Game Commission with this effort through our environmental education and outreach programs. DCNR considers the reintroduction as beneficial to the state, and we support the initiative to bring the American marten back to the Pennsylvania landscape. DCNR has appreciated being part of the Game Commission's process regarding the appropriateness of a reintroduction of the marten into the state. The assessments so far have taken into account many considerations and concerns of not only the department, the public, and other key stakeholders. Through this process, DCNR recognizes that marten could be very important to Pennsylvania's forest biodiversity and resilience. The department is looking forward to working with the Game Commission as this plan develops and release sites are potentially identified. We are willing and committed to working with the Game Commission on forest management of this important species. Thank you very much for your time.
Next up, Cameron Powell.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. As said before, my name is Cameron Powell. I'm the founder of the Pennsylvania Marten Restoration Project, a grassroots movement which supports the reintroduction of the American marten to Pennsylvania. Today, I stand before you to emphasize the significance of two crucial aspects: conducting a feasibility assessment and the imperative need for the reintroduction of the American marten to its once native habitat. These topics hold great importance in our pursuit of a sustainable and balanced ecosystem. First, let us delve into the concept of a feasibility assessment. Before embarking on any significant endeavor, it is imperative to assess the feasibility of such actions. This assessment allows us to evaluate the practicality and viability of those plans, taking into account the potential risks and benefits they may entail. In the context of ecological conservation and species reintroduction, a feasibility assessment becomes even more critical. It enables us to gauge the likelihood of success and provides valuable insights into the potential challenges and necessary precautions. It also allows anyone who reads it to understand the topic being brought up with a multitude of reliable resources. By conducting a comprehensive feasibility assessment, we can ensure that efforts are well-informed, sustainable, and have the greatest chance of achieving the desired outcomes. That has obviously been done, as there's a 2022 feasibility assessment. I think it's important for the public to review that. Now let us shift our focus to the reintroduction of the American marten, a charismatic and ecologically significant species. Once thriving in their native habitat across North America, the American marten face significant declines due to various factors, including habitat loss and fragmentation. As a result, their populations have been decimated here in Pennsylvania, and their ecological role has been compromised. However, we have the power to reverse this trend and restore balance to our ecosystems. The reintroduction of the American marten holds immense importance for several reasons. The species plays a vital role in maintaining healthy forest ecosystems, and martens help control small mammal populations, including rodents, thereby regulating their numbers and reducing potential damage to forests. Their presence ensures a harmonious balance and the delicate web of life. Moreover, the reintroduction of the American marten can have the cascading positive effects on biodiversity. The reintroduction provides an opportunity for environmental education and awareness. By engaging local communities and fostering a sense of stewardship, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for our natural heritage. The shared responsibility can drive sustainable practices and encourage the preservation of our ecosystems for future generations. Thank you very much for everyone's time.
Next on deck, Shasheen Webb.
Good morning, Commissioners, and good morning, everybody. My name is Shasheen Webb, and I'd like to give testimony about the American marten reintroduction, a feasibility assessment for Pennsylvania. Feasibility assessments hold immense value for the general public. They ensure that decisions regarding the reintroduction of native species are well-informed and transparent, taking into account ecological balance and a preservation of our natural heritage. The American marten once thrived in these lands. Sadly, human activities caused their numbers to dwindle, then disappear. Reintroducing the American marten is not just about restoring a missing piece of our natural tapestry, it's about revitalizing entire ecosystems. Thank you.
Next up, Greg Shank.
Game commissioners, guests, fellow hunters. I'm here more to discuss and talk about the quail issue. I noticed in the game magazine.
Hey, Greg, can you put the microphone in front of your mouth so we can hear you? Thank you.
About the put and take for quail. So I had to call and find out what that really meant to the Game Commission as well as the hunters. That means that, according to what I was told by the person in charge of that program, that hunters or private people can take their own birds that they bought or raised on and put them on their own ground or game commission property and take them. Put them out and hunt them. My concern there would be if they're doing, and I love the idea of being able to use the game lands, it makes perfect sense. But there has to be some sort of coordination, which I did not get any information on, whether the land management person in charge of that would have to be notified if you wanted to come out and put 50 or 4 guys are coming out to hunt and put out 50 birds or 100 birds. Where exactly would you do it? So as not to negatively interact with other hunters that may be participating in pheasant hunt or any other issue, because the season has been extended or put out to September all the way to March. So you're going to have interactions. I'm in favor of this put and take initiative, but I've always found that in Pennsylvania, the quail have never sustained themselves. And it needs to be a put and take, the same as the Game Commission has found out. You cannot stock wild birds and get any real carryover until you kill all the predators, not just selective coyotes. The cats that people have that run over that kill more game than anything, the hawks, the coyotes, and the foxes. So the initiative at Letterkenny, I understand what they're trying to do, but I think they should initiate a less costly endeavor, which would be allowing sportsmen and local clubs and individuals to do the put and take, or the Game Commission itself join that effort and stock 3 quail to every pheasant put out, because the cost of a quail is between $3 and $5. Cost of a pheasant, even on the Game Commission side, is $15. So it's put and take. Look at all the extra shooting. A quail, whenever you put a quail out, I don't care whether you put him in a spot or let him go and come back a week later. You get to raise that bird, he goes 100 to 200 max. If you don't kill him, he's down. Multiple opportunities to harvest the bird. So the engagement's there for all the hunters to increase the opportunity to shoot their gun and have a good time on the property, and bring on new young hunters to join them. Also, when they're doing pheasants, a lot of the pheasant hunters love their dogs. Well, there's a lot of hunters that hunt quail that will be glad to come out there and enjoy it also. We have a fair amount of propagators here who raise birds in the state, and we're more than willing to sell the state in combination works with them to also put out the birds in coordination with them. So it's no additional cost for the Game Commission, stock at the same time, have them delivered or picked up instead of raising your own, and instead of paying, I don't know what the Game Commission has not said, or nobody's said how much they're paying for the wild birds that they claim are wild. They have to be like 2 years in a native setting and so on and so forth. Who gets the permitting? How much do they pay for these birds? And if you can implement paying your own guys locally, and these birds are mostly egg raised but have been here for years and years and years. Anybody that goes online and checks the numbers of carryover, even on wild populations, unless you're on somebody's private farm or something, the carryover on wild birds is less than 2%. 2 to 3% is all that lasts, even if they're native birds. So the carryover is not there. Quail, at the end of the day, if nobody has shot them, they covey back up. They do not leave the game lands. They're not in my backyard setting within 1 day or waiting in the parking lot for a ride back to the pen to get fed, as the pheasant population is.
Mr. Shank, we're going to have to wrap up, please.
I appreciate the efforts of the Game Commission in entertaining and allowing us to do this, but we need more information on how you're going to initiate it. And also, I want to give great appreciation for the great archery range that the Game Commission put in at range 230 in Carlisle. Beautiful, beautiful endeavor. Needs to be cautiously watched. People are using guns on that range. And also, your change in your crop covers will hold quail as well as pheasant, even on a put and take. You put
We're going to have to wrap up, sir.
you put sunflower, you put sorghum, you put the right crops to do that. Let it take its course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shank. Next on deck, Kathy Webb.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to support the reintroducing of the American marten, which was once a native species, back into our Pennsylvania forests. It would both be positive and beneficial to our ecological system. Thank you very much.
Next up, Joe Shalito.
Good morning, Director Burhans, Commissioners. Once again, I'm here to give a few more notes on Pomatuning. I do not understand why we're not open the third season. None of my fellow hunters understand that. You've spent that large amount of money to put in those blinds. In the third season, we're not open again. The two reasons that we got was last year was we can't get any work done, we need to be closed. How much work are you doing into January and February? I don't know. And the reason we got this year is that the birds are pairing up and we don't want to mess that up. That's the answers we got. I think it's a very good idea. They went to the online system to put in for the no-shows. I take for granted that means all of the original people that received a blind are going to have to answer a question, are you coming? Other than that, if it's not, how do they know how many no-show blinds they're going to have for each day? It's not stated in there. We're still going to the system of only the blind holder gets his ticket punched, which means he's done. If you have 4 guys that hunt together, they will be able to come out 4 times. Not so sure that's a good idea. Last year we had that. And by the end of the season in January, there wasn't anybody left. They've all had their ticket punched, and they were taking people off the street, come be my person to get me in the blinds. And they weren't hunting a whole lot, but they were coming in to being the blind. And you had 3 other guys were coming in to hunt. I don't understand why we just can't have it unlimited. Either you don't want the blinds filled, or I don't know. Don't know the answer to that. I guess the biggest thing is, and Director Kramer, you're going to hear this. They're going to request a meeting because they don't understand how to do this on the thing. How do I put in for a no-show? You have been more than helpful. I told you yesterday when we talked, there was nothing in there. I pulled into the parking lot, my phone went crazy, and they said, oh, they've updated the information. It was there, and then I talked to you, and you were more than helpful, and you got the rest of that fixed, so thank you. And to change the subjects a little bit, I was one of those people who worked for years and years and years at a county treasurer's office, playing with those stupid pink envelopes. That was the greatest thing you ever did, to go through that process. The only thing that I could say that might help is turn it on at midnight. Don't wait till 8 o'clock in the morning. When a round starts, turn it on so the people who are getting home from work, third shift, can go to the computer and do it. The people before they go to work in the morning can do it. That's why the system went down. You had 8 o'clock and everybody was in there. Just a suggestion. That's all I have to say. I can say, Director Kramer, people are gonna probably want a meeting about Pomatuning. Let them know. The only other thing is, I know there's a thing out there now for senior hunters antler restriction. There's a bill in the House. It's passed the Game and Fisheries Committee. It's going to the House. I'd like to see the antler restriction go away for senior hunters. So, thank you.
Next up, D.L. Williamson.
fifth generation hunter in wildlife management, 2G. State Forest, in through the Cinnamohoning. We got a camp up there. We take good care of it.
Can you speak in the microphone so we can hear you, sir?
Take
Thank you.
kids hunting all the time. My issue with you right now is the issuance of the DMAP program from DCNR and the science behind it. Every year, there's the same amount of DMAP tags in the same areas and with fences. The fences never come down. The browse line is above the fences. I know many foresters. I've been going up there all my life since I've been a kid with my uncles and grandparents. When are the fences coming down? How could you let DCNR come to you with an allocation of a DMAP area and the same amount of DMAPs year after year in that area, on top of your antlerless 2G allocations? It doesn't make sense. Cindy Dunn don't give a damn about us hunters up there. It's all about elk. It's all about boaters, bikers, hikers. But that's okay. But you have destroyed our hunting. You had it perfect back in 2013 and 14 in the big woods in 2G, in the areas that I'm talking about, in the Wharton, Austin, all the business. Go up there and look at the game poles. One buck comes out of a hollow. We did 8 drives last year, me and my daughters and my kids. I don't care what your forest study says in Rothrock State Forest. Why don't you come up in the Susquehanna State Forest or the Sproul or the Elk, which I know intimately. I go hiking like you can't believe. I caught DCNR stealing firewood in the fall on the yellow gates that they have up there. Cutting firewood from the silvicultural cut, and here they're stealing. I heard them talking. I sat there eating a tuna fish sandwich in the woods. Listen, this load's mine. Tomorrow's load is yours. What I'm getting at is, which one of you says yay or nay to the DMAPs that they allocate and send to you to the Game Commission from DCNR? Where's the checks and balances on it? Every year there's a new DMAP. Our whole area up there along 872 is DMAPed. DMAP, DMAP, DMAP. And this is on top of the allocations that you set. Nowhere do I see 8-10 deer with my kids hunting, running through the woods up there. I understand the habitat. But Dr. Alt told us our hunting would get better up there. And it's gotten worse. Nowhere do we see spikes and 4-points running around in our deer drives. We don't see no spikes or DMAPs, or spikes or 4-points. It's either an 8-point or nothing almost anymore, maybe a 6. But what I'm trying to explain to you is, year after year now, for 15 years, 20 years since Alt told us, the fences don't. Why don't you ask them, take your fences down? The browse line is well past the fences right now. Come up and look for yourselves. I talked to many. I worked for DEP for 36 years, and I know a lot of foresters throughout 2G in that area I'm talking about, and they said they've never seen anybody come up there, a deer team looking at browse lines or make. They draw a line around a couple of roads and they go, DMAP, give them 4,000 or give them 500-600 tags. It's not right. Do any of you put the brakes on this? I mean, who says yay or nay to their when they call you and say, and why? How comes now all of a sudden the DMAPs aren't until August? Are you guys doing something about it? Are you saying to DCNR, what are you doing here? Talked to many foresters. They said there's no need for them. Your own commissioner, Delaney, Jay Delaney, who I know personally, said it's nothing but a freaking it's overgrossing of allocations. Who gets the money from the DMAP tags? Does DCNR get it or you guys get it? Yeah, I am wrapping up. I'm going to a kid's birthday party. One of many that I've taken on. And I seriously think that you should look at this DMAP program up there. Because it's not fair. The whole goddamn county's DMAP. But I'll bet all you hung on private property, don't you? And everything's fine on your private.
Thank you for everybody for being here, commissioners, fellow hunters, outdoorsmen, sportsmen. I'm Steve Wolf. This is my second meeting here. I was here the last meeting, and I want to thank the commissioners for keeping with the Saturday rifle deer season opener. It just happens to be this year my 35th birthday happens to be that day, which is going to be a great day. The sales of the hunting licenses this year. Yeah, I understand we got rid of the pink envelopes, which I was for. But there was a bit of a fiasco when people went and bought their hunting licenses at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 23rd of June. I think what we ought to do is instead of just selling doe tags and hunting licenses together on the first round, how about we start selling the hunt licenses in mid-June? How about we go for like middle of June, that Monday, 2 weeks before we sell our first round doe tags. That way you give people 2 weeks worth of time if they want to go get their hunting licenses for all their other stuff. That way they can get those, and then they can wait for their the first round date to come, and then go online on the first day. I'd say, like the gentleman said earlier, maybe open it at midnight and then let people go through. I had to wait 14 hours to buy my hunting licenses. I ended up doing it at 10 o'clock at night. After I got off work and everything, I tried getting on throughout the day. System crash. Went and signed up for the email. Got the email finally at about 9:35, 10 o'clock at night, and went on to Hunt Fish PA and spent $104 on buying my hunting licenses, which I still need to get my elk license. Well, my elk draws in yet. I know that's coming up in the upcoming week. And when it comes to the American Marten, wasn't there a problem years ago where you literally paid people to trap and hunt martens to the point where they were completely just about wiped out? So, again, I want to say thank you to the commissioners for Saturday hunting on the rifle Saturday opener. We do need to extend Sunday hunting into all the big game seasons and allow for that. We as hunters, when we buy our hunting licenses, that money is supposed to go towards the management of the state game lands. So during those times of the year, that should be for hunters and sportsmen only, really, if you really think about it. And people that do want to go hiking and stuff through the game lands, if you're hiking during a big game season, wear orange so we can see you. I've had too many experiences where I've come across people in state games 211 where they'll show up and they won't have any orange on. Some of them were Mennonites that rode down from the mountains, and they rode down to the railroad bed, and they showed up and they were in all their black garb, and they wanted to ride in during the first day of rifle bear season. And I told them that's not a good idea because you're supposed to wear fluorescent orange when you're in the game lands or anywhere in Pennsylvania, in the woods. during the hunting seasons, especially the firearm seasons. It's about safety. It's about us being able to see each other and not having uncalled for accidents. Again, thank you, commissioners, for the Saturday opener and supporting that. Thank you for getting rid of the pink envelopes. And when is your guys' next meeting?
September in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's in Erie? Okay, I won't be able to get to that one, but I appreciate you guys having the meetings here in Harrisburg. Maybe we'll get to more later. Thank you very much.
Next on deck, Mike Kreiner.
Thanks, Commissioner and staff and members of the public. Appreciate the opportunity to speak again today. I'm going to be a little bit redundant. I'm kind of that way all the time. My name is Mike Kreiner. I represent the Pennsylvania Federation of Sportsmen and Conservationists. I have the pleasure of being their director for legislative affairs. So I basically am their lobbyist in the Capitol. I've been doing Capitol work since 1991. So for way too long. And what I will say, and this is kind of my message, one, I love working with the General Assembly, but be careful what you ask for, because even when they want to get things done, it's a very difficult time to get it done. It might take years. So just like the pink envelope issue, it made sense to a lot of people, but it was very political. So the reason I love the Game Commission, I've had the pleasure of doing this now for 3 years, speaking at all these public comment periods, is because it's a non-political process. We can literally come in front of you every 3 months and give you ideas. You know, my job as a lobbyist is an educator. So even though Mr. Williamson might have taken a different tack than I take, not trying to be aggressive, he was educating you. So I think that's an opportunity that you guys give. And your volunteers, you know, the staff are paid professionals. My biggest message today is trust. The Federation and our members, we trust what the Game Commission is doing. And you know, people might be trying to do these wildlife management issues with antler restrictions and trying to reverse the Saturday versus Monday opener for rifle in the General Assembly. But my point to everyone is be careful what you ask for. You might get more than you bargain for. So we believe in all wildlife management issues should be done by the professional folks at the Game Commission, and should be an opportunity, because if things change, you can end up having a vote the next meeting or the next year, like when seasons of bag limits, to change it. And so, like with the pink envelope issue, wonderful issue. It took way too long to get done. But, you know, the Game Commission, there were a lot of unhappy people with the rollout just because it took a little bit longer. But the best part was, within a day and probably hours, you resolved it. That never happens with our state agencies. So kudos to you. I know it's never a done deal as to, you know, how this happens. It's not going to happen the same way next year, hopefully. You're always changing and evolving. So if we come up with creative ideas like Stephen mentioned about, you know, maybe doing the hunting licenses 2 weeks before you do the doe licenses, I'm sure you guys have already thought about things like that. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to reiterate the Federation believes in the commission. We trust you. We appreciate the fact that you're always out there. I hear from Dwayne and others. We got a board member here today, our vice president. He's always running into you guys out there. You know, not only are you volunteering your time today every quarter to come here, but you're out in the woods kind of learning about what's happening and around the state. So I will say real quick on the Martin reintroduction, one of our statewide members, the Pennsylvania Trappers Association, absolutely supports it. The board, we haven't taken a final position yet for the Federation on it. We still have a lot of questions. I will say that Tom Keller, kudos. I was here yesterday and listened to the awards that you were given to 25-year members of the Game Commission and partners across the state. Great to be here. The public should kind of see that more often, kind of the dedicated staff and what have you. Tom Keller didn't get an award yesterday, but he's done a great job. I've seen him like 5 times around the state now talking about this Martin reintroduction. Whether he's successful and it gets done or not, he's put a lot of effort and time into it. I think he's done a wonderful job. He's a great public speaker. Like you said, one of our members, the Pennsylvania Trappers, absolutely wholeheartedly support it. I think they're going to be a partner with the rollout with you guys. Our board's still a little bit on edge as to, you know, it's kind of we're not sure what the certainty of how it's going to happen, but I think in the end we'll probably end up supporting it. Anyway, I'm rambling here, saying way too much. I keep telling Dwayne simple is better. So our message today is we trust the commission. We appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you, and thank you for volunteering your time.
And our final speaker, Dan Davila.
Good morning. My name's Dan Davila. I am a partner with Randy Santucci with Opening Day Sportsman and Pennsylvania Hunters against the Saturday opener. As we stated last year at our first meeting in April, the opener is still a hot potato. It's in every newspaper throughout the state. On almost a frequent basis, we have an article, one of our members, Jennifer Guerrero, placed an article in the current edition of the Pennsylvania Outdoor News. And I'm going to not talk too much about that particular article. Anybody that wants to read, it's a good read, and it's honest. And today I'm here to talk about Denny Frederick's comments at a Pennsylvania sportsman club in Pittsburgh called Pitcairn. And we were contacted by the vice president, who said, you know, really have not had any contact with this club, which is one of the largest in Pittsburgh area, and that's number one. So the comments that he made when the vice president asked about why don't you folks contact the hunters via email? You've already got a pretty good database. And his comment was that you could have family members that could be touted or it could be tainted. And I don't know where a comment like that, or where he's justified to even make a comment like that. And then secondly, on the communication part with the commissioners, there's been numerous articles where we're not sure who we're talking to. You know, come to find out with the right to know information that was released last week, you know, Steve Smith has been instrumental in writing emails for you folks in response to email questions. And then one in particular is one that Randy had sent in, a rather extensive email. And then we thought that we were talking to Denny Fredericks, and come to find out that actually Steve Smith wrote his response. So there is a credibility issue here with regards to, do the hunters in Pennsylvania have a voice with this board? And as you guys could clearly see, this Monday opener is not going away. It's going to continue. There's two bills, one in the Senate, one in the House. I'm sure you guys are very aware of that. You have an opportunity here to get out in front of it. I'm not asking you today to change the date. What I am asking you to do, give it a fair assessment, give it a fair shot. Come up with a way to poll or survey the hunters. Mr. Fredericks called it a poll. It's not a poll. It's a survey with the questions that you need, so that you feel that we feel and you feel that we have the right data from Pennsylvania sportsmen, that you know you either made a good choice or a bad choice. You guys have had a pretty tough 3 months. You know, there's been a number of things happen, some of them good. Unfortunately, the good one with the antler restriction, I don't know that you can take credit for that. You know, so I'd like to see you guys get out in front of this. We're asking you to be the leaders that you're supposed to be, and make sure that you're representing the hunters, you know, and the majority of the hunters. we don't think that the commissioners are getting out there enough and talking to hunters. Case in point with Mr. Fredericks attending in that meeting for the first time in a very long time, with a legislature sitting in the audience and then making those kind of statements. So anyway, that's all I have today. I just want to make sure that you folks know that we're going to continue to fight this fight. We believe in what we're doing, and we have a lot of hunters behind us, and we now have a GoFundMe page, so we're going to be continuing to fund. So my time's up. Thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, and thank you to all our speakers for coming here today. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for the formal agenda.
Back into the room. We're going to get started on today's agenda. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Knick will be standing in today acting as secretary. So, Mr. Secretary, if you would, please call roll.
Commissioner Snip Geiger.
Present.
Commissioner Forador.
Here.
Commissioner Fredericks.
Here.
Commissioner Metrick.
Here.
Commissioner DeMarco.
Here.
Commissioner Sankey.
Here.
Commissioner Slum. Here. Commissioner Pride.
Here.
Myself, Commissioner Knick, here. All are present. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And next, I need a motion for approval of the minutes of our meeting held on April 15th, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
The first item up for consideration before the board is on page 2 of your agendas. The American marten is a fur bear once commonly found in portions of Pennsylvania, but extirpated from the Commonwealth in the early 1900s due to deforestation and unregulated harvest. In accordance with Goal 1.3b of the Pennsylvania Game Commission Strategic Plan 2020 to 2023, as authorized by the Commission at its July 9, 2022 meeting, the Bureau of Wildlife Management completed an American marten reintroduction and management plan for Pennsylvania. The plan outlines a long-term, 10-year strategy to translocate the species back to the state and then conduct long-term monitoring to evaluate the reintroduction. Important aspects of the plan include release locations and source locations, as well as partnering organizations to provide martens and reintroduction locations. It also discusses methodology on capture, transport, health evaluations, and release. Finally, the plan provides a timeline and cost estimate for the project. The Bureau of Wildlife Management is requesting that the Board of Game Commissioners release the plan to the public for a 60-day comment and review period, as per guidance from PGC SOP 40.7 Species Management Plans. Comments received and any resulting revisions to the plan would be presented at a future meeting of the Commission to inform a final decision on acceptance and implementation of the plan.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I would like to make a motion to table this agenda item before, actually, do I have a first or a second for tabling this agenda item for future consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and before we move on from here, I just want to take a minute to recognize the outstanding job that PGC staff has done in advancing this issue. And in particular, our fur bearer biologist, Tom Keller, who we heard from yesterday. Tom traveled all over the state, attended, I think, 73 different public meetings, and really engaged with the public in letting them know what the plan was and how they could be involved. He did a fantastic job, and he represented the agency incredibly well. I understand he's still working with an outside company to perform an additional in-depth survey of public opinion regarding possible Martin introduction here in PA, and that survey is expected to be completed in the coming months. I commend Tom for the importance of conducting this additional survey work to help us, guide us in our decision-making process. So given that survey is not yet completed, I believe it's appropriate that we table this issue at this time to allow for that survey to be completed and the results to be made available to this board and the public. By doing so and tabling this agenda item for today, the board will continue our commitment to evidence-based decision-making that considers and values the input of the public that we serve. Mr. Secretary, will you please call a vote on tabling this agenda item?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 3 of your agendas and comes from the Bureau of Administration. The Commission recently conducted an evaluation of its issuing agent program, looking for ways to decrease costs and requirements applied to this group. This effort is, in part, related to the Commission's recognition of the significant impact that changes to its license sales process have had on issuing agents in the form of reduced license sales opportunities and increased business costs. For these reasons, the Commission is proposing to amend sections 143.21, 143.23, 143.24, 143.27, and 143.30 relating to appointment of agents, minimum sales requirements, fee for reapplication, conditions for appointment, and return of disapproved applications, and to remove sections 143.22, 143.25, 143.26, and 143.28 relating to rebate for first-year agents, rebate restrictions, time for rebate, and application period, to reduce issuing agent application fees, minimum annual sales quotas, and annual bonding rates. Current regulations set the annual issuing agent application fee at $500. First-year issuing agents are eligible to apply for application fee rebates of up to $400, depending on the number of licenses they sell throughout the license year. However, few first-year issuing agents recoup more than $100 to $200 in rebates each year. Moreover, the $500 application fee figure was set at a time that predated the availability of internet license sales and on-site license printing for in-person sales that are now current standards. Due to the updates and advances in the licensing system process and infrastructure over the past decade, the Commission determined that it can safely lower costs to issuing agents by reducing the annual issuing agent application fee from $500 to $200 without creating an unreasonable risk to the Commission. Furthermore, this change mitigates the need for the Commission to maintain the existing rebate program, thus allowing the applicable regulations to be simplified by elimination of regulatory text. Current regulations require an issuing agent applicant to acquire and maintain an $18,000 bond. This bonding rate was set at a time when paper licenses were sent to all issuing agents to cover the value of the Commission's expenses for the value of the paper license stock, as well as all license and permit fees collected by a given issuing agent. After the Commission's migration to the current on-site printable licenses, its investment in licensed paper stock has significantly reduced. Furthermore, The Commission's migration to weekly electronic funds transfers has also reduced the Commission's financial risk associated with collection of the revenues generated by license and permit sales. Lastly, of the few instances in the past 2 years where Commission collected against an agent's bond, the claims fell well below the $18,000 figure. Due to all of the updates and advances in the licensing system process and infrastructure over the past decade, the Commission determined that it can safely lower costs to issuing agents by reducing the annual bonding rate from $18,000 to $11,000 without creating any unreasonable risk to the Commission. As an added measure to reduce requirements on issuing agents, the Commission determined it is appropriate to reduce the annual minimum sales requirement from 50 to 25 licensed products per year. The changes will also allow mentored hunting permits to be included in an issuing agent's sales figures. Lastly, the Commission determined that it is no longer necessary to maintain the limited November 1 through March 31st application window for issuing agent applications due to the advances in technology and license issuing processes. Allowing applications year-round will give issuing agent applicants greater access without creating any unreasonable burdens on the Commission. And the text of the revisions can be found on pages 4 through 6 of your agenda.
Do I have a motion to move?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 8 of your agendas and comes from the Bureau of Wildlife Habitat Management. Canoe Place Fish and Game Club is offering 67 more or less acres of land in Liberty Township, McKean County, near State Game Land number 61, Exhibit Red 1. The option price is $4,000 lump sum to be paid from the Game Fund. This property includes an existing range facility and clubhouse. The PGC will agree to hold the land in perpetuity as a state game land and ensure that the property will remain open to public hunting and fishing. Access is from Pleasant Drive.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Dave, would you talk about this, please? Acquisition?
Yeah, so this is one that came to us. Give credit to the new game warden assigned to that area in McKean County, Helen Karp. Went to a club meeting. Club was meeting some financial hardships, and they talked through a process of about how to get this land to the Game Commission. It has an existing rifle range on it. It has an old area that used to be used as a trap shooting range. So there's opportunities there for us to expand those facilities. We don't have another public shooting range within an hour in any direction of that location. So it gives us an opportunity to expand some shooting opportunities there. It does have huntable property there. There's grouse, turkeys, deer, and bear on the property. And it's close enough to the existing game lands that it wouldn't be a hardship for our folks to manage it.
Thanks, Dave.
Any other questions from the board or discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No, it's a time issue.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 10 of your agendas. John G. and Melissa L. Sabella and Timothy E. and Judy A. Sabella are offering 13 more or less acres of land in Troy and Steuben Townships, Crawford County, adjoining State Game Land number 122, Exhibit Red 2. The option price is $13,000 lump sum to be paid from the Commission's restricted account, representing funds from third-party commitments for compensation of habitat and recreational losses which occurred on state game lands from a previously approved project. Acquisitions using this account may exceed $400 per acre. Access is through existing state game land number 122.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Not hearing any opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 12 of your agendas. David L. and Ronna L. Akins are offering 1 more or less acres of land in Burrell Township, Indiana County, and interior to state game land number 276, Exhibit Red 3. The option price is $1,000 lump sum to be paid from the game fund. The parcel is an interior to the state game land, and therefore the commission may exceed $400 per acre under Section 705B of the Game and Wildlife Code. The oil, gas, and mineral rights have been accepted and reserved by prior owners. Access is through existing state game land number 276.
Do I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Gustafson, how do we come up with 1 acre in the middle of game lands? Can you give us a history there?
So quite often, as we acquire game lands, we put them together with multiple parcels over periods of time. Some of those parcels have existing indentures within them, and when we acquire the larger piece, we end up with those indentures. So we've got a pretty ambitious staff out there seeking out these key pieces of property within game lands to try to protect the integrity of those game lands from further development and things like that. So whenever an opportunity comes up, whether we see properties being marketed by our field staff, that we want to try to tackle these types of properties as fast as we can to protect the game lands.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Secretary, will you please call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 14 of your agendas. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is offering 649 more or less acres of land in the city of St. Mary's, Elk County, adjoining state game land number 14, Exhibit Red 4. The option price is $767,307 lump sum to be paid from the Commission's restricted account, representing funds from third-party commitments for compensation of habitat and recreational losses which occurred on state game lands from previously approved projects. Acquisitions using this account may exceed $400 per acre. Access is from State Route 120.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
So on this one, Mr. Gustafson, I understand there's a pretty good story behind this as far as collaboration between our NGO partners and staff. So if you could just elaborate on that for the record.
I'll try to be brief, but yes, so a Pennsylvania-based forest products company acquired this tract, and in doing so had the intent not to hold the land in perpetuity. They wanted to see the land come to the Game Commission, and they wanted it to go through the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So there was Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation stepped up, was able to help out bringing some money to the table as a partner to make this deal happen for us. So it's a very, we love these kinds of deals when we have people reach out to us, and they say, hey, we want it to come to you. We want to work with a partner. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's been a great partner of ours through our entire elk management program for years, auctioning off tags for us and things like that. So it made really good sense. This is in the core of the elk range. Game Lands 14, heavily used by our elk herd. So expanding that property is crucial for us to maintain great elk habitat, try to keep them out of the town of St. Mary's where they cause problems. So this will give us even more opportunity to do that.
It's a great testament to RMEF stepping up to the plate again and continuing to be a great partner with the agency. So I'm looking forward hopefully getting this through and adding to public access in the Elk area. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item can be found on page 16 of your agendas. North Central Pennsylvania Conservancy is offering 102 more or less acres of land in Plunkett's Creek Township, Lycoming County, adjoining state game land number 134, Exhibit Red 5. The option price is $520,000, lump sum to be paid from the Commission's restricted account, representing funds from third-party commitments for compensation of habitat and recreational losses which occurred on state game lands from previously approved projects. Acquisitions using this account may exceed $400 per acre. The oil and gas rights have been accepted and reserved by prior owners. Access is from Cabbage Hollow Road.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, will you please call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 18 of your agendas. Leslie R. and Tracy L. Van Gorder and Todd R. Weaver are offering 73 more or less acres of land in Hamlin Township, McKean County, adjoining state game land number 62, Exhibit Red 6. The option price is $150,000 lump sum to be paid from the game fund. The parcel provides critical access to state game land number 62, and therefore the Commission may exceed $400 per acre under Section 705B of the Game and Wildlife Code. Access is from Township Road 321.
Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 20 of your agendas. The Dorothy G. Pagano 2005 Trust is offering 15.7 more or less acres of land in Walker Township, Schuylkill County, adjoining state game land number 257, Exhibit Red 16. The option price is $31,400 lump sum to be paid from the game fund. The parcel is an indenture to the state game land, and therefore the Commission may exceed $400 per acre under Section 705B of the Game and Wildlife Code. Access is through existing state game land number 257.
Do I have a motion
So move.
and a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 22 of your agendas. Johnny R. and Linda L. Mershot are offering 69 more or less acres of land in Lower Turkeyfoot Township, Somerset County, adjoining state game land number 111, Exhibit Red 17. The option price is $122,500 lump sum to be paid from the game fund. The parcel provides critical access to the state game land, and therefore the Commission may exceed $400 per acre under Section 705B of the Game and Wildlife Code. Access is from Jersey Hollow Road.
Do I have a motion
So move.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
The next item can be found on page 24 of your agendas. John David Malone is offering 27 more or less acres of land in Montgomery Township, Indiana County, adjoining state game land number 262, to the Commission in exchange for 9 more or less acres of state game land number 262 in Montgomery Township, Indiana County. Exhibit Red 7. The Commission determined that the 27 more or less acres to be conveyed to the Commission is of greater value than the land to be conveyed to Malone, and the proposed exchange is in the best interest of the Commission. Access to the 27-acre parcel is through existing state game land 262.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Gustafson, can you expand on this one a little bit as well, just for the record?
Yeah, so sometimes, we have neighbors to game lands that, through this one, through an expansion of a business opportunity, they need more space. When we look at these, we want to make sure that any exchange that we would enter into would have an overwhelming benefit to the agency, not just a simple one-to-one exchange. If you notice on the map here, the land we're going to be receiving it's 3 acres for every acre we're giving up, and it also connects the disconnected parcel of Game Lands 262. The land that we will be exchanging to Mr. Malone, it's already in a safety zone. It's steep hillsides, so the land we would be getting, we feel, is an overwhelming benefit based on what we'd be giving up.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item can be found on page 26 of your agendas. Charles D. Gerlach III, Barbara J. Gerlach, Charles D. Gerlach IV, Charles D. Gerlach V, and Stephen E. Gerlach are offering 3 more or less acres of land in Overton Township, Bradford County, adjoining state game land number 36, to the Commission in exchange for 1 more or less acre of state game land number 36 in Overton Township, Bradford County. Exhibit Red 8. The Commission determined that the 3 more or less acres to be conveyed to the Commission is of greater value than the land to be conveyed to the Gerlachs, and the proposed exchange is in the best interest of the Commission. Access to the 3-acre parcel is through existing state game land 36.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So, Mr. Gustafson, it looks like we've got another 3-to-1 land exchange here.
We do, and this is another instance where, sometimes neighboring properties, maybe if there's an uncertainty about where a boundary line may be, you end up with what we call encroachments. Whether they have a shed that may be across the line, or a fence, or they're mowing grass, or in this case, a driveway that cuts across the game lands. Once we're aware of those, we have an obligation to protect the integrity of the game lands and clean those up. Oftentimes, one of the mechanisms we use to clean those up is exchanges. In this case, there wasn't another suitable alternative because of slope of the land to get a new driveway access into this property for this individual. So, it's 1 acre and 3 acres, but the staff time, the negotiation, the surveyors going out on the ground to lay out this project, it's a lot more involved than it may seem on a simple map. So I just give a ton of credit to the field staff that work with the landowners, the survey team, our real estate team, our legal team, all of them that make these things happen. You'll see several more of these coming up where we're trying to work towards cleaning up encroachments. It's a big mission of ours in the real estate program right now. So this is one of those projects.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the map, it appears as though there's a group of buildings right in the middle of State Game Lands 36, and there's a road going out to it. Are those our buildings, or do they belong to somebody else, that land?
I believe that is gas well infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 28 of your agendas. Raymond J. Kreis is offering 10 more or less acres of land in Ridgeway Township, Elk County, adjoining state game land number 44, to the commission in exchange for 1 more or less acre of state game land number 44 in Ridgeway Township, Elk County, Exhibit Red 9. The commission determined that the 10 more or less acres to be conveyed to the commission is of greater value than the land to be conveyed to Kreis, and that the proposed exchange is in the best interest of the commission. Access to the 10-acre parcel is through existing state game land 44.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Love the 10-to-1 ratio there.
Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 30 of your agendas. Sally S. Reedy, Wesley F., and Mary Lou McCutcheon, and Michael J. Rathy, and Deborah M. Rathy are offering to participate in an exchange of 4.55 more or less acres of land in Burrell Township, Indiana County, adjoining state game land number 153, Exhibit Red 10, for 0.78 more or less acres in Smith Township, Washington County, part of state game land number 117, Exhibit Red 11, and 0.5 more or less acres, 0.114 acres, and 0.094 acres in Young Township, Indiana County, parts of state game land number 332, Exhibits Red 12, 13, and 14. Sally S. Reedy will provide $315. The McCutcheons will provide $365. Michael J. Rathy will provide $100, and Deborah M. Rathy will provide $100 toward the acquisition of 4.55 acres being offered for sale by David L. and Ronna L. Akins with an option price of $2,100. The commission will provide an additional $1,220 lump sum from the Game Commission's restricted account, representing funds from third-party commitments for compensation of habitat and recreational losses which occurred on state game lands from previously approved projects. Acquisitions using this account may exceed $400 per acre. The commission determined that the 4.55 more or less acres to be conveyed to the commission is of greater value than the land to be conveyed to Sally J. Reedy, the McCutcheons, Michael J. Rathy, and Deborah M. Rathy, and the proposed exchange is in the best interest of the commission. Access to the 4.55 acre parcel is through existing state game land 153.
Do I have a motion
So move.
and a second? So this is a whole ball of wax that looks like it's cleaning up a whole bunch of encroachment issues. Is that accurate?
It is. So in the previous few items that you saw, we were able to do an exchange, just a discrete exchange with one owner where they had land to give up that we could acquire that made sense. Sometimes when we discover multiple encroachments, there isn't that opportunity to do a direct exchange at the site. So in this case, there was an opportunity to acquire 4.5 acres and allow those folks with the encroachments to contribute towards that exchange, essentially. They're contributing funds instead of land, and therefore we're cleaning up those encroachments that way. So, yeah, lots of different ways to accomplish the same task. But, yeah, again, you can see the complexities of some of these maps, and we're looking at small triangles of, 0.04 and 0.011 acres. So it's a lot of work with the field staff, the surveyors, the legal team, and it's a lot of work just to draft up an agenda item to try to make it make sense. But yeah, essentially, we're acquiring 4.5 acres to clean up several encroachments.
Appreciate the work from your team on this.
They do a great job. And some of these have been lingering for years until we can find an appropriate way to resolve them. So they're not easy, they're not quick, but we work hard, the staff works hard to try to get them done.
Any further discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Passed, Madam Secretary. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 36 of your agendas and is notice of notational vote. On June 6, 2023, the Board of Commissioners approved by notational vote the deposit of $184,511 into the restricted revenue account to be used for the future purchase of lands to mitigate the temporary loss of wildlife resources and/or recreational values. Range Resources Appalachia LLC, Range, offered $184,511 in exchange for a special use permit granting the temporary privilege of constructing, operating, maintaining, and removing a total of 7,660 feet of above-ground water line with 4 valves and/or air vents in a 25-foot right-of-way and 1 above-ground storage tank, AST, with the necessary pumps, valves, and fittings on an existing 3.05-acre pad, along with the temporary privilege of using and reclaiming 2,816 feet of existing access road and a total of 0.44 acres of additional workspace on state game land number 232 in Blaine Township, Washington County. Exhibit Red 15. The water line and AST will be used to manage and transport fresh water for completion of natural gas wells within the game lands while reducing truck traffic on the game lands and in the surrounding area. This is an informational item only, therefore no action is required.
That brings us to the end of our formal agenda. Under other new business, our next commission meeting will be held September 15th and 16th, 2023 in Erie, Pennsylvania. We will not have a press conference following the meeting, but the commissioners will go into executive session. So thank you all for your time and attention today, and for those that came to provide public comment testimony, we appreciate that as well.